Well, let me go on to this subject now because, it's always kind of related to the health field in some ways indirectly. Drug rehab, the actual rehabilitation of people that have been abusing drugs, is another criminal syndicate in itself. I know there's a lot of people get stuck on drugs, and obviously, drugs are being brought into this country on purpose. They're being sold to support clandestine operations that Congress won't fund, right? We know that too, right? Now, there's also a revolving door between the FDA and the medical establishment because it takes $1 million to get a drug approved by the FDA, and normally they just pay them $1 million, and it's already approved with you know studies that leave out the data that make the drug look bad because the best way to freaking make money is to have patented drugs. Now, my contention is to be that there's a lot that could be done through nature, but the thing is, there's no money in nature. There's no money in it, and that's the problem. It's everything about money is really it's a form of control, and even the drug rehabilitation, the criminal justice system, and everything is just corrupt as all hell. It's freaking wrong. Um, I can tell you, I really get kind of really annoyed with a lot of the false Christians out there. There's loads of them because every single one of these people that are in these organizations are supposedly Christians, and we all know who gets blamed for everything, right? The Jews, right? But no, 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 no. Now, I just want to also say something too. What's even going on with the drug problem? A lot of the kids in school are being treated for attention deficit disorder, and a lot of returning veterans are being treated for post-traumatic stress disorder, right? It's another stupid thing. But even the kids that are being treated for attention deficit disorder with Adderall, Ritalin, or whatever the hell it is, a lot of people don't realize those are very harmful drugs, and they actually are gateway drugs to hard illegal drugs. So many times the kids will actually bullshit the school counselor or the psych just to get these drugs to get high. And on top of it, it creates a dependency where they need them. And there's been a much, 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 much higher percentage of people that got on crack cocaine that were on these drugs in school so they would supposedly help them pay attention. But you know what the problem is? A lot of the school curriculum is just boring as shit. That's really the problem. Some of the teachers. Now, another group of people that are being drugged out there are senior citizens. And you know what? They're helpless. Um, Once a freaking senior citizen goes into some kind of institution that's run by, even a private enterprise, they're pretty much helpless to anything. And a lot of times the medications they receive for, say, pain medication, like how long did it take for OxyContin to be recognized that it causes, problems with mental capacity? And a lot of times people that even go in these places, um, maybe they were a little, out of it all their life. I mean, maybe they weren't that, like take for instance, I can tell you, there's examples of people that were like a fun, bubbly blonde when she was 18 years old, and you would call her a ditzy blonde. Not that I'm freaking mocking on women or blondes, but there's that type of person. Then when you get older, they act the same way. If they can act the same way they were acting when they're 18, when they're 80 or 80, 90 or whatever the hell it is, and when they act the same way when they're older, they're judged as being like, incompetent or something, or just not all together. But they're always like that. I mean, they're no different than they always were. So then they give them medications and really screw them up even worse. I actually think a lot of this freaking pharmaceutical industry is damn criminal crime syndicate, and it's supported not just by the FDA, but it's also indirectly supported by law enforcement because now I can't really knock law enforcement that much, but I know there's corruption in law enforcement big time, and including the correctional facilities. Actually, what I'm thinking is, probably the biggest solution to going would be just to freaking have the whole government go default and the hell with it. That'd be the best damn thing because I think the government today is doing more harm for the people overall than they are doing good. Knowledge is power, and the type of knowledge the government is freaking throwing at us is basically propaganda for the big money people. So I'm going to actually throw you some real solutions out here. One of the cheapest things you could do for the psyche and the mind, and this has always been known as what do you call that? Seasonally affected depression or seasonally affected, disorder. I forgot. It's like SAD. They call it SAD. It's an acronym: seasonally affected disorder, or seasonally affected depression. And a lot of times that's cured with natural sunlight. You can just get natural sunlight bulbs. Actually, I use a full spectrum bulb all the time indoors, just for the hell of it. Not that I feel like I'm sad or anything like that, but it's like, I do it just for the hell of it because I figure it's a good preventive measure. That's one thing a lot of people don't realize, that the sun's frequencies, the sun's light contains all the frequencies that affect the psyche and the mind. And one of actually here in the great state of Florida, probably one of the best things they can actually do to improve people's health is, or even for drug rehab or whatever the hell it is they probably should have these damn institutions on the beach with views out to the waves and to the ocean, and fresh air blowing inside versus four walls and a bunch of medications. Because I think actually the soothing sunlight, the fresh ocean breezes, and the sound from the waves would do more to people for drug rehabilitation than any freaking prescription medication out there. Now I know it's not going to do everything in the world, and the other side of it is, if a person's doing something deliberately wrong, you don't want to actually reward that behavior too. But the thing is, what's going on is people are even in drug rehab in Florida, and that's really the main focus I'm talking about here. Now, me, I have never taken any drugs in my life, including like marijuana. Some people don't even consider that a drug, and I don't really consider it a drug, but I have never taken even marijuana. I never smoked. I haven't. I used to drink when it was brand new, when I was like 18, 20 years old, and I got out of it sometime in my 20s. And I haven't really drank for decades, so I'm like in my 60s, right? So, like, I don't really care, I mean, to me, this is like a non-issue to me, and I'm really putting this out for other people because you are actually being criminally abused by the system that is profiteers. All these rehabilitation processes out there that are supported by big pharmaceutical companies are actually going into pockets of, well, not just big pharma, but also their agents, which is like the salespeople, which we have MD as initials, medical doctor or psychiatric medical doctor, and or therapist, or even that are supported by taxpayers through these state-run institutions. And they have a vested interest in playing the game because their jobs all depend upon these psychotropic drugs and the way things have been done. There's a lot cheaper ways of doing things, like I said, about sunlight, fresh air, and that type of stuff. But let's get on to some other things, because there's other things you can actually do that can really rehabilitate people a lot quicker. Now, one is through actually, besides the light therapy, but it's also the sound, and the like. We can also even use the Soda Instruments Beck Biotuner. Now, that's a device I'm not showing here because I guess it's their picture. It's Soda Instruments Beck Biotuner. The device actually was not created by Soda Instruments. They manufacture it. Even Bob Beck, who kind of advertised it a lot, he didn't create it. He didn't even wasn't the first one even brought it here in the USA. It was actually Meg Patterson. Meg Patterson. It was a Russian device. It uses beta wave brain stimulation, and the way it works is it helps soothe and heal and balance the electrical impulses in the brain, whereby it helps you to get off a lot of these addictions. It has a 90% success rate with kicking a heroin habit, which is phenomenal. That's what it's been touted to have. I think it was the famous rock star Pete Townsend. He kicked a heroin habit with the help of a biotuner with working with Meg Patterson. So, and also even have frequencies that mimic the soothing effects of weed. 30 hertz is supposedly the marijuana frequency. I'll just put that out there. 30 hertz, believe it or not. So if you even use 10 hertz and with a pure square wave, 50% duty cycle, the next wave up, that because it produces secondary waves, the next secondary wave up from the 10 hertz will be 30 hertz. So even 10 hertz will produce that marijuana frequency if it's a 50% duty cycle and a pure square wave. That's pretty cool too. So, sometimes you might want to use something like that because it's not a drug. It's not going to harm your brain or anything like that. Now, with 30 hertz, that's just something you would be putting through the body, not the brain wave stimulation. Now, another thing you could do is through plain old nutrition. Now, this has been worked. This can work excellent for people for short-term memory, mood. Um, Also works for epileptic people, schizophrenia, but also just improves your general sharpness of the brain. And that is because the brain is dependent upon these things called ketones, ketones, and ketotronic diet. They call it, you want to take the high ketotronic diet, which is mainly coconut oil. I'm showing a tree here, a coconut oil, a coconut tree. Now, you can get raise the ketones in the brain with coconut oil is the best one to use, but it could be the coconut milk, the coconut water, any part of the coconut will actually help do that. And also, um, you can also raise it with high fat type foods like milk fats, high fat cheeses, and butters, but coconut oil works the best. Another thing you can use is the natural vitamin B3, niacin. That helps the brain produce an essential NAD. I think it's nicotinic adrenal or something. It's NAD. It's a particular type of hormone that's essential to the body. Now you can use either types of niacin to do that with in conjunction with vitamin C. It could be but the one you really prefer is nicotinic acid, which is the natural form, the type that gives you the flush. And if you don't get a flush from the vitamin C, the nicotinic acid, the vitamin B3, along with vitamin C, if you don't get a flush from the vitamin B3 with the flush type, that means you're short on it. You're short on the vitamin in your body. You need to take enough where you start getting a flush. In many cases, that's going to require over a period of a day, 3,000 milligrams or 3 grams. And, this has been known to cure schizophrenic patients, but the thing is, it also works with drug rehab. And a lot of times people don't want to use this type of stuff in conjunction with vitamin C, which is a very vital hormone that repairs the body. They don't want to use this type of stuff because it's too dirt cheap. They want to use only patented synthetic pharmaceutical meds, which actually age you much faster. If you're on a lot of pharmaceutical meds and they're telling you that it's keeping you alive, maybe it is keeping you alive in some cases because you might need those pharmaceutical meds initially, say to lower your blood pressure or something, or maybe you got a real severe problem whereby you need some pharmaceutical meds, but eventually you should be able to wean yourself off of them and go to 100% pure nature, because pure nature is really what heals the body. You do not want to go only on taking pharmaceutical meds every time you got one of your parameters of your life function is off, whether it's your blood pressure or your white blood cell count, your red blood cell count, or whatever. If you do not always want to go on pharmaceutical meds unless it's like an emergency, you need a hammer to fix something right away to get it into specification so your life is in danger. But you generally want to do it with nutrition, and it can be done with nutrition in every single case that I ever heard of. And the people will not do that in the medical world because there's no money in it. As a matter of fact, if they can, well, they already did synthesize vitamin C from oranges and limes and lemons, but that's just too cheap. Now, if they could have patented vitamin C and sold you 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C instead of for like a tiny fraction of a penny, they could sold it to you for like $3 a pill. I'm sure they'd be, and they're reaping 99.99% profit. I'm sure they would be prescribing vitamin C left and right as a cure-all. But the problem is they haven't patented it and they can't patent it, and that's the problem. Now, the other thing I also want to mention is, a lot of people that get into drugs are, well, they're young people. They're young women, they're young males, they're young women, and a lot of times they can unexpectedly get caught up into the intertwinement of the legal system, and this is really where the other crimes come into play because the legal system itself is criminal. First off, they sometimes even have a vested interest, like prosecutors have a vested interest in, you know, doing something about crime, doing something about the drug problem and all this kind of crap. So they're tough on crime, or the judge is tough on crime. He's constantly, you know, they're trying to get, a million years worth of sentencing by, a certain time or something, and maybe in some cases that's, well, I don't actually, to tell you the truth, I pretty much disagree with that all the way. But you can, but the problem is a lot of times people get in trouble for these drugs, are put in these jails, and they're put in there and they turn into bigger criminals, and then on top of it they get victimized by the correctional facility itself. There is massive amount of rapes going on of women in prisons by male guards, and particularly in, well, Oklahoma, Texas, and Florida, and I think even Georgia too is another one state that's like that. And also even in New York, in Rikers Island, there's a lot of stuff going on over there. Now, I think it's going on in every single state in the country, but if some woman is actually um, did some drugs someplace, I mean, she didn't harm her body anywhere near. She committed no crime to anybody else, really. If you look at where the drugs came from, even if they were hard drugs, they probably got protected by the U.S. military in Afghanistan or something and brought into this country and sold to fund CIA clandestine operations. Then here, this woman or male gets sent to prison so they could be raped. In the case of males, they're being raped by guys. In the case of women, they're being raped by guys too, probably. I don't know, probably more guys. Even, but many times it's actually the people that are guarding the prisons. And you know what? The Christians are all like jumping all over this deal, like, oh, these people, they committed a crime, too bad, or even not the Christians. And I'm like thinking to myself, what the hell is wrong with you stupid people? What is wrong with you people? And wonder why people actually even get a cynical attitude after a while, and they don't give a shit about the law, because the law is so screwed up, because people that are actually even in, enforcing the law, or actually running these facilities, are actually, and are all part of this criminal system, this, even this drug pharmaceutical system, are freaking, so freaking, you know over the top with what they're doing to people. In many cases, even a rehabilitation system of, for drugs, is actually creating a new type of druggie, and there's a financial incentive to do that, because they want you dependent upon their stuff, so that they got money coming in. Now, if they're not getting reimbursed by the government or the healthcare system, then they have no financial incentive to do so. But I can tell you, there's a lot of crap going on, and I've heard a lot of stuff even going on in the state of Florida, but I'm sure it's going on in every state. You'll even have a lot of, nonprofit 501c Christian organizations taking advantage of some of these people, even more so than even the correctional facilities are doing. Um, Geez, I don't want to say too much on here, because I know what YouTube's going to say. This video is not just advertiser friendly, not eligible for monetization, and I'm trying to, I don't know how much money I make on these or whatever, but it's like I don't want to get flat out not a nickel for it, that's the other thing. But I wish I could tell you a lot more, because there's been examples where there's been people, even in some of these church organizations, that are some of the most heinous criminals going. And, you know, I don't know what the hell I could say on here. I mean, what do you, am I limited or what? I mean, I don't know what the hell the limits are. If I'm telling the truth, is that out of bounds? So don't criticize the powers that be too much. That's what it comes down to. So I'm going to actually take some shots at them, but unfortunately, I can't tell you the whole freaking unadulterated truth about what's really going on. I can't. I always got to hold back on here somewhat. I wish I could tell you. And, you know, I consider myself, I almost consider myself a liberal in a true sense. Not the way these other liberals are that are write for the Huffington Post or something. But in some ways, I agree with them a little bit, because a lot of these right-wing conservative types are freaking too far over, and they're too quick to punish people, too quick to freaking judge people, too quick to freaking throw the hammer down. Someday it's going to come around that, maybe, and a lot of times it's some of these most religious people are like that. But sometimes, someday it may come around that, you know, um, the government, in conjunction with the psychiatric medical profession, is going to say that people who believe in Jesus have a psychosis and they need to be drugged up. So, I mean, you want to play the games, you want to play the games, you want to knock people's other beliefs. And, the way I look at it is people do what the hell they want to do. If they're not hurting nobody, fine. If they're doing drugs, yeah, if you say that's bad. But the thing is, I don't believe in drugs. Like I said, I don't take any drugs, period, ever. Ever. I don't even, I don't consider weed a drug, but I don't even smoke any weed. Some people think I do because the way I talk on here, I talk very laid back, and I'm like, but I don't smoke any weed. I don't. I don't smoke any damn weed. I never have, and I just don't give a shit about stuff because I notice people smoke a lot of that stuff. They seem to lose their ambitions and they get lethargic. And I want to be go, 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 and just keep busy. So I don't want to slow down. I'll drink a lot of coffee. I'll drink espresso if you want to call that a drug. But you know what? Espresso is not a, well, I guess that could be. Espresso coffee could be a drug because it does have a lot of caffeine. And maybe that's how I can talk fast. But anyway, but I don't drink that a lot. I drink some. I don't drink that a real lot. So I don't know. Who knows? But let me put it to you this way: there's actually a criminal crime syndicate, not only in the government, but it's also in the pharmaceutical industry, and it's also these people that are allowing this stuff to happen because people are being taken advantage of 50 different ways from Sunday. I don't think people that are even in prison, most of our people, we got the biggest amount of prisoners in the world, in this country. We got more people in prison per capita than anywhere in the world. This is supposed to be a free nation. What, are you kidding me? And you know what? You know what most of them are in prison for? Drug-related offenses. And look at the commander-in-chief we used to have, Bill Clinton. He pardoned his brother that got caught red-handed from the Arkansas State Police, the good side of the Arkansas State Police, because I know there's been a lot of corruption going on with them. But, he forgives the guy, gives him presidential pardon, and then you have Bill Clinton on tape, or his brother on tape, saying, my brother Bill has knows like a vacuum cleaner. So, everybody knows Bill Clinton was, smoking crack and weed and all this other shit left and right, all kinds of drugs, and giving it to the women and all this. I mean, and here's the president. Here's the president. It's okay for him. Why? Because he's the president? It's because he's the king? Is that what the deal is? And you know what? These freaking, a lot of these people in law enforcement and government, they're all doing that same shit. So, but they'll throw everybody else in a slammer over it. Less things than that. Then when they go in a slammer, what happens? They get raped. Ugh. This is bullshit. And the Christians are like, where the hell are the Christians? I think Jesus was a Christian. he's original. I guess sometimes I get mad at that guy, but maybe he was in a problem. Not the guy, whatever he is. I don't know. I have to almost agree with a lot of what the Jews say, because if he's the savior, I'd hate to know, who the enemy is, because it's like all these people are supposedly following Jesus. They're sure not doing a good job, trying to fix the situation and remedy a lot of the things that are going wrong. They seem to be, a lot of these Christians seem to be absolutely part of the problem. And, where I'm coming from is, before there was a Jesus, before there was, Christianity and all that, before there was, people knew these things about healing with herbs. They knew about the sunlight. They knew about healing with sounds. And it's like, what the hell? What the hell? People knew this. The Tibetans knew this. The Tibetans knew this a long time ago. The Tibetan monks with the healing sounds. A lot of that can freaking, the body and the mind, the mind can make anything overcome any kind of the body. The mind gives you the strength to the body to overcome any kind of obstacle. That includes getting off of drugs. That includes like being outside in freezing cold weather for so long. That includes bringing your heart rate down deliberately. All this type of stuff. They knew this. The ancients knew this. The ancients knew this before Jesus came and saved us, supposedly, right? And anyway, But anyway, I just want to put this out because I realize, um, and it's more. I can't really say it's. I think it's got a different style. Like in the north, they got a lot of screwed up garbage going there. The cops are corrupt. Actually, they're involved in drug trafficking left and right. You know what? You know what? It's all over. I guess it really is all over. It's a different type of style the way things are in the north, how the corruption is, and it's a different type of style in the south the way the corruption is. But the corruption's there. It's just a little bit different the way it's done. Um, I wish I was running this show down here in the South, but personally, what I would do is I'd put in. If I was a governor of the state of Florida, I'd put out an executive order um, that there would be coconut oil in all the diets, nicotinic acid, vitamin C, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2 on every single blood person that was incarcerated, and mandatory education, even if it's about um, the Bill of Rights and the fundamental rights of people and what our nation was formed about. I make them all into a bunch of damn patriots when they came out of that damn place. You know what I mean? And to be stand tall that you were an inmate. I swear to God, I want people to have a positive experience about anything. And these people that are in jail for drugs and stuff like that, it's like totally criminal what they're doing to them. The system's doing to them. The system itself can be fixed for way less dollars. There'd be a lot less problems. If you even look in, a lot of people say we can't have in the United States like they have in Norway or Sweden with the way they rebuilt, with how they have their prison system. It's almost like a community whereby it's almost like a relaxing thing. To me, you want to turn somebody into a positive person, and the only way to do that, well, partly is through nutrition, but it also has to come from the heart too. The person actually wants to actually rehabilitate. But the other thing is, if you're constantly freaking throwing barbs at them and aggravating them, and you're showing them that the system itself is more criminal than what they were put in there for, well, they're not going to ever rehabilitate, and they shouldn't ever rehabilitate because the truth is the system's more criminal in some cases than the people that are actually incarcerated for drug offenses. So I got to put this out because it's not something that's personally related to me or anything in any way, shape, or form. It's just an issue that I've seen come up, and I figured people like me are the ones that need to bring this out because, um, I can't say like I'm saying it's like somebody can't accuse me of saying I'm saying this because somebody got after me because of a drug problem or something. No, there's no drug problem. I never did any drugs in my entire life, including weed or anything like that. The worst thing I ever did was get drunk sometimes when I was like 18, 20, 22, when it was brand new to me and stuff. And I haven't even drank at all really since I was like in 30 or something. Pretty much got out of it because it's like a waste of time because when you drink, you're freaking the next day is so unproductive. I decided, this is bullshit because you feel like hungover and you can't get anything done. It's like, to the hell with this bunch of bullshit. Um, so, and that's legal to me. Actually, weed should be more legal than drinking because drinking obviously is far more harmful than weed. That is quite obvious. And in the case of weed, um, I know there's some medical things for it besides the marijuana oil. Like in the case of Parkinson's, a person that has severe Parkinson's and they can't walk and are shaking and everything like that, they smoke some weed, all those symptoms are gone. It works almost every freaking time, like magic. And they won't let these people have it, unless they live in the state of California or Colorado for medicinal purposes. But in most states, no, especially in the biblical South. And I'm like saying, what the hell's going on here? If the biblical South was really in tune with what Jesus was about, they would let these people have medical marijuana, you know. And I know that would be abused too, but you know what? We got bigger problems than that because actually a lot of the most hard drugs are being brought into this country on purpose by the banking system, the banking cartel in this country, um, and also being brought into. But I mean, the drug enforcement agency is all involved in it too. Not the agents on the bottom, but on the top it is. I mean, it's government's corrupt as all hell, man. And I guess the real solution is a hell of a lot less government because You don't need that many people freaking governing us, and the thing is, when people get involved in this, like Hollywood glorifies these type of things, like when young women or young men get involved in it, then they get caught up in the prison system, and then they're sexually abused by the correctional authorities themselves, and that's extremely common. I know it's extremely common in Oklahoma, um, Texas, Florida, I think even Georgia, and everywhere else though. Everywhere else. I mean, Rikers Island, New York, and all that. I mean, everywhere else. So, you know, my thing on here is I'm just saying is that just to sum it up, there's so many natural things that people can do to heal themselves. There's so many natural things that they can cheaply administer to people that are being rehabbed that can actually work for them, and they won't do it because there's a major financial incentive to keep the drugs of the pharmaceutical industry going to line the pockets of people all attached to that, which includes not just the psychiatric MDs and the counselors and the medical rehab people, but also the drug industry itself and all the taxes they pay. And they all know each other. It's like a revolving door between even the pharmaceutical industry and the law enforcement. It's pretty criminal all the way around. And unfortunately, it's like there's no clear dividing line. I can't say law enforcement's all bad. Definitely can't say that. But there's a lot of bad in it. And I don't know how much bad is in it, but there's quite a bit bad in it. And what kind of people go into law enforcement? Sometimes there are people that have a good conscientious mind, and then some people go in it for other reasons that they figure, oh, this is cool, I could do this and I could do that. They have another attitude, right? But that's just like anything. The dividing lines are never clear cut. Who's good and who's bad? And what it really comes down to is we need a hell of a lot less government. We need a hell of a lot less big business in this country, and we need to go back to the old ways of the ancients. And possibly what we just need to do is go back to the old ways that the American native peoples had in this country, because one of the things they used to have were by people got more acclaim in the community was, well, if you were a great hunter and you're an American native Indian and you got 3 buffalo or something, whatever, say you're a Plains Indian, and the other guy didn't get any, well, you would share. You would share, you would give them, and you would feed the community. So it wasn't a matter of, I grab all 3 buffalo and let everybody else starve, like you see happen in the corporate world. The American Native Indian kind of worked a little bit more like things work in nature. Like even you see this with a squirrel, right? A squirrel will gather acorns, and they gather so many acorns they need for the winter to survive a long winter with snow and cold. They don't gather all the acorns and that they don't need, so they could have all their fellow squirrels starve or charge them big exorbitant amounts of money, because squirrels don't have money anyway, but you know what I mean. So they can rake them over to the coals and own them like serfs. That's what humans do. That's what humans do. And, that was an observation of Mark Twain himself, very much so. Sometimes I think, the humans are some ways are even worse than what goes on in the animal world, in some ways. In some ways. So, anyway, just want to put this out because, the drug rehab is actually a criminal enterprise in itself. And the way it is, as it is today. But it doesn't have to be that way. And they need to actually decriminalize all these freaking drug laws completely. Well, pretty much. Pretty much. And, go back to nature for rehab. And if they don't decriminalize all these laws, they need to go into the people that are selling pharmaceutical drugs and making people dependent upon them for depression or drug rehab or whatever the hell it is, because it's lining their pockets. Like every psych out there would freaking tell people they need lithium practically, or any psych that even prescribed drugs to kids under 5 years old. They need to go and charge them with criminal wrongdoing retroactively. They really do. I think that would freaking put an end to it, because it's not just a matter of getting back to basics, but some of the people that really need to be punished are people that are in the system itself. And because they're worse than the people that the system is actually, treating or has in there under their thumb, the people in the system itself are actually worse. In many cases. I don't really want to knock law enforcement too much, because law enforcement, it all depends who the hell they are, but law enforcement many times does risk their lives. But these people that have power over their victim slash patients, that administer them drugs, those type of people don't risk anything. They don't risk anything. They have a very safe world. They just bill for drugs, and they go back to their $500,000 office and their $2 million home, and they just collect their fees. Whereas law enforcement, especially in the state of Florida, they don't get that much money. They might get $40,000-$50,000 a year, and that's not a lot of money for what they do. So I don't really want to say too much. I don't want to say too much against them at all, but depends on there's situations where they're not too good either. So, but you know what? Tell you the truth, they're probably the least amount of the problem going. It's actually the type of laws and actually the type of system that's been created that law enforcement has to enforce. That's the main problem. So I don't want to be anti-police here, because I know there's definitely some bad apples. I recognize that, but I don't think it's really generally like that. But some people tell me no. I know there's some people tell me, "What, are you kidding me?" But maybe it is. I don't know. I really don't know, because I'm not too involved in it. But I know there's major problems out there, and they need to be corrected, man. And the way to correct them, we know this. We know this. We know this. It's only through Jesus. We know how to correct these things with nature before anybody even knew about Jesus. Okay. Well, if Jesus was alive today, he'd say, "Go out in the sun, go pray in the sun by the water. Take an orange, take some coconut oil, take some niacin, you'll feel better." That's what Jesus would say. I know it's not official red words, but if he was still alive, I think he'd say something like that. And take it from Rabbi Synergy here, because I'm not a rabbi, but I actually I have more respect for Jews than Christians, generally speaking. So anyway, over and out. That's all I had to say about just a little bit of a rant, but it's probably a long rant. But I'm like, this is pissing me off. Pissing me off, because it's been ongoing for umpteen years, and every time they think they're fixing something, they make it worse. Let's pass a new law. We don't need your stupid laws. How about common sense?